Hello and welcome to another Crafternoon tutorial. Today I am going to be painting the Northern Lights. As always, I'm using acrylics. I'm not using red today, so it's just going to be blue, yellow, white and black. You're going to need 2 paintbrushes, one medium and one small, a cup of water, some kitchen roll to blot your brushes on, a sponge, just half a kitchen sponge will do, and your canvas. You can either use cardboard, paper, or if you do have a canvas, brilliant. Mine is A4 and we're going to do landscape. Okay, let's go. So, I'm going to start by getting my blue and just going to work into the background quite a lot. So I'm just going to start with doing this and trying to fill as much as possible. You don't want to go into the outer edge because that's going to be black. You might need to add a little bit of water to your sponge. While your blue is still wet, I want you to get the yellow and put it on this side of the blue. So you don't want it to be going too far up here, keep it more down on this part of the canvas. And when you mix these together, you should be mixing a really, really nice green. Before adding any of my black sky, I'm just working more and more in with my blue and my yellow until I'm happy. If you do want to cover the sides, you're more than welcome to. I'm going to do it because with the sponge it's really, really easy to get the paint on quickly. Okay, we are now going to add a little bit of white. So far we've just used blue and yellow and we've got quite a few nice green, yellow and blue tones. But you want to bring out the lighter parts. So on your 3 main strips of Northern Light, I'm just going to start by adding little bits of white near where you put the yellow. So don't try and put too much white in the darker areas, it will come out as a grey tone. You might find that the white blends really, really quickly and doesn't make too much of an effect, so just keep working in with the white. It's quite a weak pigment, which means you need to use quite a lot of it to make a difference. I'm also using the same direction of sponge strokes, because the Northern Lights all go up in the same direction, so make sure you're not going out completely random strokes. Now you might want to wash your sponge with this bit, but I'm just going to turn mine around and just use the darker side. At this point it's a good thing to add that you should be wearing an apron or an old top. This isn't that old, but I'm just going to try and be super clean. And now while this is still wet, which it still should be, you're going to get your black, dab it out so it's not too much yet. You can always add but not take away, like cooking. And we're going to start putting black on the outer edge of the canvas. To make sure the black mixes in nicely with the green and the blue, I've just added blue directly on to the edges of where the black is, just to help with the blending. Okay, and while that's still wet, you want to get your medium brush, get a bit of the blue and mix it in with the black. And then we're going to put a little bit of definition into the clouds. Okay, I've got a nice clean sponge now, so I'm going to work in a bit of the lighter blues and greens and yellows, because my black's a bit overpowering. So I'm going to start with the blue, and I'm actually going to mix on my palette a slightly lighter blue. And I'm just going to dot it on first. My black's still wet, so I don't want to mix it too soon. I'm actually going to use a different blue. Most primary sets will come with a warm and a cool blue. I'm just going to use a warmer blue, so it's closer to the reds, whereas this blue is closer to the yellows. It just means that it will be a slightly warmer shade against the black. I think it would be a nice contrast. If your sponge is a bit wet and you find that you've got a bit too much paint on your canvas, just use a tissue. It does a similar effect to the sponge. It will dry it out and it will also merge the colours in quite nicely. I'm now using a technique with a medium brush where I'm putting the brush directly in the space that I want. So we've covered the majority of the background, but we just want it to be a bit more precise and a bit more vibrant with the colours. And the sponge, because it is quite large, the larger surface area means that we don't get the precision that we want. Okay, I've now covered mine with quite blotchy looking paint marks. You now want to make sure your sponge is completely dry. Oh god, so mine isn't. Bring it out. You can even dab it on the kitchen roll to make sure it is dry. Basically make sure you'd want to touch your face with it and know that it'll be fine. And then start with the lighter parts first. As soon as your sponge gets dark, as you may have learned by now, it's quite difficult to then mix the colours well. So we're going to start with all the white bits and just go over as we have been doing before. So I've just done the top half, and the bottom half still needs to be done. Okay, right, we're going to let this dry. It should take about 5-10 minutes. You don't need your sponge anymore, so you can get rid of that. I'd recommend getting rid of your kitchen roll and replenishing that, and just go make a cup of tea and make sure it's touch dry when you return. Okay, so when you've left it for 5-10 minutes, however thick you put it on, I've left it for about 15. It's still not completely dry yet, but we're going to add the stars now, so it doesn't need to be completely dry for that. Instead of dotting on the stars individually, we're going to flick paint. For that, you definitely should have an apron on. You should lay down quite a lot of newspaper, or if you have something like this, a tapestry sheet, that should do. You're going to need two paintbrushes and just white paint and a bit of water. I've just cleaned all my water out and I've got some new kitchen roll. You don't want to dry it out too much, so don't put the paintbrush on your kitchen roll yet. Just get your pure white. You might even need to add a bit more water. And then we get the back of a different paintbrush and move your valuables out the way and just flick. If you can see what I've done. You see it? Yeah, I'm actually going to add a few more. Okay, and when you're happy with your stars and you've flicked enough, if you have done a couple that are a bit too thick, you can always go over them in black paint. I probably will. I'm going to clean that thin paintbrush you just had. And we're going to do the silhouette. So we're going to do a moose. You're more than welcome to do anything you want, as long as it's kind of Nordic and would fit. You can do some trees. Maybe a bear and a cub would look quite nice, but I'm going to do a moose because I think the antlers would look really, really nice against here. I'm just going to do it on this side and with a kind of a rolling grassy hill. And that's just going to be a pure silhouette, so it will be in black, and I'm just going to do the grass. For the actual grass, I'm going to get a smaller paintbrush and actually turn the canvas to this side, only because I feel like I've got more control on getting a sharp line when it's going across rather than down or up. If you're happy to go down or up and you feel you've got more control that way, it's completely up to you. I just find doing this action a lot more precise. Okay, I've finished my grass. And I'm now going to move on to the moose silhouette, which is going to go here. If you look up any silhouettes on Google, you can get a bear and a baby cub, just a cub, some trees. There's loads and loads of things that you can add, so feel free to freestyle at this point. I am using a moose that I found on Google. I've never painted a moose before. Okay, and when you have the image that you want to do, you can either draw it out. I'm just going to paint directly onto the canvas and start smaller, especially when it's a black silhouette. You can always build on top and make things larger, but it's going to be really hard to take it away if you've done something wrong. I'm going to work with my tiny brush again, the one that I did the grass with. Blot it out. I'm just going to start with the body to make sure I get the proportions right to start with. Okay, so my silhouette of my moose is done. I botched up the back legs a little bit, which means maybe you should draw it out and not just go straight on with paint, but that's completely up to you. Now I'm just going to go over bits of the stars that are a little bit too large. So when I was doing some splatters, some came out quite big or joined together. And if you have done anything wrong in your silhouette, it should be quite easy, because we've only used a few colours, to find the colour of the sky behind. So for me, it's the back leg. I'm just going to find a really, really pale yellow and just go over that. I'm also going to go over little bits of where there's a yellow shade and white, and just really highlight that and put a tiny bit more yellow just on with the paintbrush. Okay, I am now happy with my Northern Lights painting. And when you are done, you can sign it, hang it up. Remember to post us if you are recording your progress. And yeah, that's it. It was quite simple. The background to the main part, really, to get right, and then the silhouette and the flicking bit is the fun part. Thank you for watching, and we'll be back next week.